The galaxy was quiet, almost too quiet. In the vast emptiness between stars, the human race was barely noticed, considered primitive by the great minds of the universe. But humans had something no one could measure or predict: cunning, curiosity, and an unshakable will to survive. On the edge of a distant star cluster, a research vessel floated, its hull glinting under the cold light of a dying sun. The crew inside were not human, they were the Elysians, beings whose intelligence had shaped entire civilizations, whose knowledge spanned millennia. They called themselves the architects of thought, and they believed nothing could surprise them. Captain Viral, the eldest of the Elysians, sat at the control console, his long, spindly fingers tracing the holographic star map. His eyes, a deep violet, scanned the flickering projections. "There's something unusual in this sector," he murmured, his voice calm but tinged with curiosity. "An uncharted vessel. Its energy signature is primitive, yet unpredictable." His lieutenant, Tarek, a younger Elysian with silver-blue skin, leaned forward. "Primitive, you say? Perhaps another human expedition." "They are known for small, fragile ships that rarely leave their home systems." Viral's eyes narrowed. "Humans are fragile, yes, but unpredictable, and that makes them dangerous in ways we cannot foresee." Meanwhile, aboard a much smaller ship not far from the Elysian's vessel, humans moved with precise efficiency. The ship, patched and scarred from years of exploration and narrow escapes, hummed with life. Commander Aaron, a tall man with short-cropped hair and keen green eyes, oversaw the controls. His crew, a mix of scientists and engineers, worked silently, every movement rehearsed, every decision deliberate. "Status report," Aaron asked, his voice steady despite the tension. Lieutenant Mira, the communications officer, scanned the incoming signals. "We've been detected," she said, her tone clipped. "A large ship is approaching. Its energy output is immense. I've never seen anything like it." Aaron's lips pressed together. He had expected trouble. Humans had survived for centuries by relying on ingenuity rather than firepower. But this was different. "Good," he said quietly. "Then it's time we show them what humans can do." Back on the Elysian vessel, sensors detected the human ship and began analyzing its structure. "Their technology is crude," Tarek said, almost dismissively. "No advanced shields, barely functional propulsion. This is hardly a threat." Viral's gaze did not leave the projections. "Do not underestimate them. Intelligence does not always wear the face of complexity. Sometimes it hides in simplicity. Observe closely." The human ship drifted closer to the Elysian vessel, small against the massive structure that seemed to glow with its own light. The Elysians watched, confident, curious, even a little amused. But humans had a way of twisting situations, turning impossibilities into opportunities. Commander Aaron smiled faintly. "They think they can predict us," he said to himself. "Let's see how far their confidence takes them." On the bridge of the Elysian ship, Viral initiated communication. A holographic projection appeared, shimmering in the air. It showed the human ship in exquisite detail. "We are the Elysians," Viral announced. "Your presence here is unauthorized. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Aaron's eyes flicked to Mira. She nodded, and he activated their own communications interface. His voice was calm, friendly, yet firm. "We are travelers and explorers. We mean no harm. We seek knowledge, as do all sentient beings." Viral studied the humans on the holographic display. Something about their expressions intrigued him. There was no fear, only a quiet confidence. "Curious," he muttered. "They claim to seek knowledge, yet they exude audacity. An unusual trait for their species." Tension built in the void between the ships. Every movement, every signal, was measured. The Elysians believed themselves to be the wisest, the most intelligent beings in the galaxy. Yet the humans, so small, so seemingly insignificant, moved with a careful boldness that unsettled even the ancient mind of Viral. Prepare to board, Viral finally commanded. I want to meet them personally. If they are as simple as they appear, this will be enlightening. As the Elysians readied their boarding craft, the humans executed a series of maneuvers so subtle, so precise, that even the advanced sensors of the Elysians struggled to track them. Commander Aaron watched the approaching ship with a calm smile. Time to see how the galaxy reacts to humans who refuse to be measured by their size or technology, he whispered. The void between the two ships seemed to hold its breath. And in that silence, the first real confrontation between humans and the galaxy's greatest minds began. One that would challenge assumptions, ignite wonder, and leave echoes across star systems for centuries to come. The human ship slipped through the void with surprising grace. Commander Aaron's crew moved with quiet efficiency, each member aware of the stakes. The Elysians were not just observers, they were architects of civilizations, beings whose intelligence rivaled the universe itself. And yet, humans had always found ways to survive, adapt, and sometimes even triumph against impossible odds. Inside the Elysians' massive ship, Captain Viral prepared for boarding. His thoughts wandered in ways uncommon for his kind. He had faced countless species, many of them technologically superior. Yet there was something about humans that fascinated him. It was not their tools, or their small fragile ships, or even their raw courage. It was their mind, their ability to think differently, to see opportunities where others saw only danger. Captain, Tarek interrupted, sensing the hesitation in his superior. The humans are executing maneuvers that defy prediction. They are unusual. Viral nodded slowly. Yes. That is exactly why I must see them for myself. The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. Perhaps it is time we understand why. Meanwhile, on the human ship, Mira monitored the approaching Elysians. They are sending a boarding vessel, she reported. It's large, heavily armored, and fast. Aaron leaned back in his seat, a faint smile on his face. Good. Let them come. We will welcome them. On our terms. The boarding craft detached from the Elysian ship like a silver spear, slicing through the darkness of space. Inside, Viral and a small team of Elysians readied themselves. They were confident. After all, no human had ever successfully challenged an Elysian in direct contact. Yet, there was an air of caution among them, subtle but real. As the craft approached the human ship, the humans activated a series of countermeasures that were simple in design but deadly in effect. A cloud of decoy signals surrounded the Elysians, confusing their sensors. Small, almost invisible drones zipped past the boarding craft, emitting pulses that scrambled its navigation systems. Viral's eyes narrowed. Interesting, he murmured. They are clever, not just brave. On the human ship, Aaron watched the Elysians struggle. Remember, he said to his crew, they may be stronger, faster, smarter in theory. But humans are unpredictable. That is our advantage. The Elysians' boarding craft wobbled, struggling to maintain course. Viral's team tried to stabilize it, but every correction seemed to make the humans' tactics more effective. Deploy boarding restraints, Viral ordered. We will capture them if necessary. But the humans had no intention of being captured. Using a combination of evasive maneuvers and small electromagnetic pulses, the ship created a temporary field that prevented the Elysians from locking onto them. Inside the human ship, Mira smiled. They think they can trap us. Let's show them humans are not so easily caught. Aaron nodded. Engage the secondary field. Make sure they know we are not helpless. A brilliant flash of light filled the void as the humans activated the field. The Elysians' boarding craft was forced to retreat slightly, unable to maintain a stable trajectory. Viral's confidence wavered for the first time in centuries. They are resisting, he whispered. And they do so without weapons capable of harming us. How is this possible? On the human ship, Aaron leaned forward, eyes focused. Because we do not fight like they expect. We fight smart, we fight differently. That is our power. Viral watched as the human ship executed maneuvers that seemed impossible for its size and technology. Every calculation the Elysians made was met with an unexpected move. It was a dance of intellect versus ingenuity, experience versus audacity. Finally, Viral called off the immediate boarding attempt. "Return to the main ship," he ordered. "Observe them. Study them. They may be small, but their minds, they are formidable." As the Elysians retreated, Aaron allowed himself a small smile. "We survived the first encounter," he said. "But the galaxy's greatest minds will learn something today. Humans are not to be underestimated." The void between the two ships remained tense, silent but alive with unspoken challenges. The humans had proven something extraordinary. They had turned a simple confrontation into a test of intelligence and will. The Elysians, who believed nothing could surprise them, were left with more questions than answers. And in that silence, Commander Aaron made a quiet vow. Humans would not only survive, they would teach the galaxy that cunning, creativity, and courage could outshine even the brightest minds. The first true battle of wits had begun. And neither side would forget the lessons learned in the cold, endless void of space. The void between the two ships seemed endless, yet it was alive with tension. Commander Aaron watched the massive Elysian vessel from the bridge of his small human ship. Every decision he made, every maneuver, was deliberate. Humans had no chance in a fair fight, yet they thrived in the impossible. That was their gift, their edge. Inside the Elysian ship, Captain Viral reviewed the encounter again. His violet eyes glimmered with curiosity and frustration. "They move with confidence," he said softly, almost to himself. "They are small, yet they twist every situation to their advantage. It is remarkable." Tarek looked at him, confused. "Captain, are you saying you are impressed by them?" Viral did not answer immediately. He stared at the projections of the human ship, watching its movements replay in holographic detail. "Yes," he finally admitted. "Impressed. And wary. Their minds, they do not follow our logic. That is dangerous. That is extraordinary." Back on the human ship, Aaron issued commands. "Activate stealth thrusters. Keep them guessing. We need to observe them, not fight head-on." Mira adjusted the sensors, tracking the Elysians' responses. "They are curious," she reported. "Every time we change our approach, they adapt, but slower than us. We can stay ahead if we remain unpredictable." Aaron's smile widened. "Good. Let's give them a show. They think humans are simple, weak, predictable. We'll show them the opposite." The human ship shifted through the void like a shadow. It slipped behind asteroids, dove into nebulae, and used the gravitational pull of nearby moons to launch sudden, unexpected maneuvers. Every move was calculated but appeared chaotic to the Elysian sensors. Inside the Elysian ship, alarms blinked and sensors beeped rapidly. Viral frowned, sensing the humans' cleverness but unable to fully anticipate it. "Their movements are too erratic," he said. "And yet, there is intention behind every action. They are not chaotic, they are calculating." Tarek shook his head. "We can outthink them. We have centuries of experience, vast libraries of knowledge. We are the masters of the galaxy." Viral's gaze hardened. Experience is not the same as insight. Intelligence is not always measured by data or calculations. Sometimes, it lives in courage, adaptability, and the refusal to submit to fear. Humans have all three. Meanwhile, the human crew executed a subtle but daring plan. Small energy pulses emitted from their ship created temporary anomalies in the space around them. The Elysian sensors struggled to map these distortions accurately. Every time the Elysians thought they had a clear path, the humans would appear somewhere unexpected, almost as if they could bend the void itself. Aaron's voice was calm over the comms. "Remember, keep them observing. Make them question their assumptions. Humans have survived the impossible before, we'll do it again." The Elysians grew uneasy. Captain Viral had faced countless species that relied on technology, brute force, or ancient knowledge. But he had never encountered a species that used simplicity as a weapon. Humans were small, unarmed in comparison, and yet they moved with such precision and cunning that even the oldest Elysians felt the sting of doubt. Tarek spoke again, frustration in his tone. "Captain, why are they so unafraid? Why do they not retreat?" Viral paused, thinking carefully. "Because fear is not their guide. Humans face danger as it comes. They adapt. They learn. And when the galaxy underestimates them, they exploit it. That is their strength. That is human ingenuity." On the human ship, Mira whispered to herself as she adjusted the controls. "They think they see us. But they only see what we want them to see. Let's keep it that way." Aaron watched the Elysian vessel struggle to predict his ship's movement. A quiet thrill ran through him. For centuries, humans had been considered insignificant, a minor species barely worth noting in the cosmic ledger. And yet here they were, forcing the galaxy's greatest minds to chase shadows, to question their assumptions, to reconsider the definition of intelligence. Finally, Aaron issued a silent command. The ship executed a daring maneuver, skimming the edge of a nearby star's radiation field. The Elysian sensors went into overload, unable to track the humans' movements accurately. Viral clenched his hands, realizing that for all their knowledge and experience, humans had led them into a trap of perception and intellect. "They are teaching us," Viral admitted softly, almost to himself. "And they do so without a single weapon fired. They are extraordinary." In that instant, both humans and Elysians recognized a truth neither had expected. Humans were not just survivors. They were challengers of thought, masters of unpredictability, and the galaxy's underestimation of them could be its greatest mistake. And so, the silent duel in the void continued. One side relied on knowledge, experience, and confidence. The other relied on instinct, adaptability, and cunning. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo across star systems. And somewhere deep inside Commander Aaron, a quiet resolve solidified: humans would not just survive, they would show the galaxy what it truly meant to be underestimated. The darkness of space seemed heavier now, charged with the unspoken contest between humans and Elysians. Commander Aaron's ship glided silently, almost like a shadow, as the larger Elysian vessel struggled to track its movements. The humans had learned the first lesson of this encounter. Predictability was weakness. Every decision, every maneuver, was a carefully chosen illusion. Inside the Elysians' command center, Captain Viral stood over the holographic display, studying the human ship with growing fascination. "They are clever, yes," he said, his voice low. "But it is not just cleverness. They are audacious. They risk everything they have to make the impossible seem normal." Tarek frowned. "Captain, we could crush them in moments if we applied full force. Why hesitate?" Viral's violet eyes held a hard, thoughtful glow. "Because they are teaching us something. Most species submit when faced with overwhelming power. Humans do not. They challenge perception, thought, and patience. That is rare. That is dangerous. That is remarkable." Meanwhile, aboard the human ship, Mira and the crew prepared the next stage of their plan. "Sensors show they are regrouping," Mira said. "They are analyzing us, trying to predict our next move." Aaron nodded. "Let them. Humans have a habit of learning faster than anyone expects. Use every advantage we have, every shadow, every particle, every distraction." The human ship veered suddenly, darting behind a cluster of small asteroids. The Elysian sensors scanned frantically, but the readings were scrambled. For the first time, the Elysians realized that human strategy was not just reactive. It was proactive, imaginative, and impossible to anticipate. On the Elysian bridge, tension grew. Viral clenched his hands. They are not just moving, they are thinking several steps ahead. They are using deception as a weapon. Tarek's voice was sharp. "Captain, they are still insignificant in strength. We could overwhelm them any moment. Viral shook his head slowly. Do not confuse strength with power. Humans' true power lies in their minds. Every step they take, every calculation they make, is designed to teach us that we cannot rely solely on technology or history to defeat them. Back on the human ship, Aaron guided his crew through a daring sequence. They used the radiation from a nearby dying star to create false energy signatures, confusing the Elysians further. Small drones released into the void created optical illusions, making the ship appear in multiple places at once. Keep focused, Aaron said. They are learning, but they are still behind. Humans are built for moments like this, unexpected, impossible, and bold. Viral watched the holographic projections of the human ship flicker in multiple locations at once. His mind raced, trying to find a pattern, a flaw, but there was none. They are teaching us patience and observation, he muttered. Perhaps we have underestimated this species too long. Tarek's hands shook slightly as he adjusted the controls. Captain, they are manipulating our sensors. Every calculation we make is wrong. They are small, fragile, and yet they have outsmarted centuries of Elysian knowledge in minutes. Viral nodded slowly, a rare smile crossing his face. Yes, that is exactly what makes them human. Inside the human ship, Mira whispered. We're pushing them, right to the edge. They don't know what to do next. Aaron's eyes sparkled with determination. Exactly. Humans survive by thinking differently. Let's show them how far we can push the impossible. The void seemed to tense, as if the stars themselves held their breath. The humans executed a daring maneuver, slipping through a narrow asteroid corridor that even the Elysians had not anticipated. The larger vessel slowed, unable to follow without risking its own integrity. Viral's gaze hardened, not with anger, but with awe. They are teaching us something we have long forgotten, he said quietly. Humans do not fear limits. They do not bend to rules. They redefine them. That is exceptional. Aaron allowed the human ship to hover just out of reach, giving the impression of retreat while actually controlling every movement. They think they are in control, he murmured. But we've been leading this dance all along. The Elysians, despite their centuries of knowledge and unmatched intelligence, were forced to pause, observe, and rethink. Humans had turned what seemed like an impossible confrontation into a display of wit, courage, and creativity. The lesson was clear. Intelligence alone did not guarantee dominance. Insight, adaptability, and daring could challenge even the greatest minds. And in the quiet expanse of the galaxy, Commander Aaron smiled. The first step of humanity's grand plan had succeeded. The Elysians were no longer indifferent observers. They were intrigued, challenged, and forced to respect the audacity of a small human crew in a fragile ship. For the humans, survival was only the beginning. For the Elysians, understanding had begun. And for the galaxy, the tale of audacious, clever humans was only starting to unfold. The void of space was alive with silent tension. The human ship moved like a whisper through the darkness, each maneuver precise yet unpredictable. Commander Aaron's crew worked in perfect synchrony, their hands steady, their minds sharp. The Elysians were vast and powerful, but humans had long since learned that sheer strength did not decide outcomes. Intelligence, ingenuity, and boldness did. Inside the Elysians' command center, Captain Viral's violet eyes scanned the projections of the human ship. They are still small, he said quietly. Fragile. And yet every action they take forces us to reconsider everything we know. Tarek, growing increasingly uneasy, replied, Captain, they cannot continue like this. One misstep, and their ship will be destroyed. Viral's gaze hardened. Do not mistake luck for recklessness. Humans are never truly reckless. Every move is calculated to appear effortless, and that is exactly what makes them formidable. They are teaching us lessons we did not know we needed to learn. Meanwhile, aboard the human ship, Aaron studied the approaching Elysian boarding vessels. They will try again, he said calmly. But this time, we will make them pay attention. We do not flee. We control the encounter. Mira nodded, adjusting the sensors. Their boarding craft are faster than the previous one, but we've analyzed their patterns. We can anticipate their approach, just barely. Aaron's eyes gleamed. Good. Then let's make our move. Humans survive by turning disadvantages into opportunities. Let's show them exactly how we do that. The human ship executed a daring sequence, weaving through a field of charged asteroids. The gravitational forces caused the Elysian sensors to miscalculate trajectories, creating confusion and hesitation. Every maneuver appeared chaotic, but it was deliberate, a dance designed to outsmart a species that relied on certainty and logic. Viral's hands moved rapidly over the controls, but the projections flickered unpredictably. Impossible, he muttered. Every calculation fails. Their movements defy logic, yet they are deliberate. How? Tarek's voice trembled. They are small, fragile, yet they control the flow of this encounter. Captain, it is disturbing. Viral nodded slowly. It is extraordinary. Humans survive not by overpowering others, but by redefining the battlefield entirely. They turn limitations into weapons. That is true intelligence. Aboard the human ship, Aaron's voice was calm but firm. Deploy the secondary pulse array. Let them feel the consequences of underestimating humans. Small devices released from the ship, emitting subtle energy waves that interacted with the Elysian's navigation fields. The boarding craft began to drift, losing synchronization. The Elysians tried to compensate, but the humans' clever timing kept them always one step ahead. Mira watched the screens, excitement in her eyes. They're trying to correct their approach, but it's too late. Every correction we made anticipates theirs. Aaron's voice was quiet, almost reverent. This is why humans survive. We turn danger into opportunity, confusion into strategy. We turn being underestimated into power. On the Elysian bridge, Viral leaned forward, his mind racing. They are small, weak, but they control the outcome of this encounter. Every attempt we make is anticipated, countered, or manipulated. And yet, they do not strike to destroy. They are not aggressive, they are brilliant. Tarek swallowed hard. Captain, we are learning from them. We are being taught by humans. Viral's lips curved into a rare, subtle smile. Yes. And that is why the galaxy has always underestimated this species. Humans survive, not because they are strongest, but because they are clever, bold, and unafraid. Every encounter shapes them, and every encounter teaches others. That is human ingenuity. The human ship then executed a bold move, skimming dangerously close to the Elysian vessel without triggering defensive measures. The Elysians watched, astonished, as the humans navigated what should have been impossible. Commander Aaron's quiet grin mirrored the understanding of the audacity required. Humans could bend circumstances to their will, not by force, but by imagination and strategy. Viral observed in silence, realizing that humans had achieved something extraordinary. They had taken a confrontation with one of the galaxy's most powerful species and turned it into a display of intellect, courage, and control. For the first time, the Elysians recognized that raw strength alone was no measure of superiority. As the void stretched on, both sides held their positions, tense but aware that the humans had changed something fundamental. Commander Aaron knew they had survived not merely by luck, but by skill, insight, and a willingness to defy expectations. And Captain Viral, despite his vast knowledge and centuries of experience, knew that underestimating humans again could cost the galaxy far more than he had ever imagined. The first true test of minds had ended, for now. But both sides understood that the story was far from over. Humans had proven their worth, their audacity, and their brilliance. And the Elysians had learned a lesson they would never forget. In the galaxy, intelligence alone could be deceived, but ingenuity and courage could shape the course of entire civilizations. The human ship drifted silently through the void, seemingly small and fragile against the vast bulk of the Elysians' vessel. Commander Aaron's green eyes scanned the controls, calm but alert. Every system was ready, every crew member in position. Humans had survived impossible situations before, and now they were about to teach the galaxy yet another lesson. Inside the Elysian Command Center, Captain Viral's gaze was fixed on the projections of the human ship. "They are not just clever," he said softly, almost to himself. "They anticipate, adapt, and manipulate. And yet, they do not act out of fear, or desperation, or malice. They act with purpose." Tarek shifted uncomfortably. "Captain, they are daring to approach too closely. It is reckless." Viral shook his head slowly. "Reckless to us, perhaps. But to them, it is strategic. Humans thrive on uncertainty. They turn danger into opportunity. That is the key. That is why we have underestimated them for so long." Back aboard the human ship, Aaron issued his next command. "Activate the reflective decoy array. Make them question what is real, and what is illusion." Myra's fingers danced over the controls. Tiny drones launched from the ship, scattering light and energy in unpredictable patterns. The Elysian sensors struggled to track them. Multiple images of the human vessel appeared in the void, each one moving slightly differently, each one a perfect illusion. Viral's eyes widened. "They are multiplying themselves, in perception," he whispered. "Every reading is false. Every calculation is challenged. They are teaching us again." The Elysians scrambled to adjust. Boarding crafts attempted to align with the projected positions of the humans, but each correction only led them into further confusion. What should have been an easy approach became a frustrating puzzle, one they had not anticipated. Tarek's voice shook with frustration. "Captain, we can use force. We have weapons capable of destroying them instantly." Viral's hands hovered over the controls. "And yet, they have survived without a scratch. Humans do not rely on force, they rely on mind, courage, and imagination. That is something your weapons cannot defeat." On the human ship, Aaron allowed the illusions to draw the Elysians into their own miscalculations. He watched as their maneuvers became clumsy, their strategies predictable because they assumed raw power would suffice. Aaron smiled faintly. Humans did not need to overpower. They only needed to outthink, to outmaneuver, to challenge assumptions. Mira whispered, "They think they are controlling the encounter, but we've led them exactly where we wanted." Aaron nodded. Every species in the galaxy believes intelligence is measured by knowledge or size. Humans measure it differently, by courage, ingenuity, and adaptability. That is why we survive, and why we teach the galaxy lessons it never expects. Back on the Elysian ship, Viral's violet eyes narrowed. He realized that for the first time, he faced a species that could not be fully predicted, that could not be dominated by sheer intellect or experience. "They are extraordinary," he admitted. "Small, fragile, and yet, they shape events around them as if the universe bends to their will." Tarek looked at him, eyes wide. "Captain, you are saying, they might surpass us?" Viral did not answer immediately. He studied the human ship as it performed another daring maneuver, slipping behind a nebula cloud, vanishing from view, only to reappear in another position entirely. "They already have," he said quietly. "Humans redefine the rules. That is why the galaxy cannot dismiss them. That is why the greatest minds must pay attention." Inside the human ship, Aaron allowed himself a moment of reflection. The Elysians were not enemies, exactly. They were witnesses, observers, and for the first time, they were learning what humans were truly capable of. Humans did not conquer by weapons alone. They conquered by creativity, courage, and the unshakable belief that even the smallest being could change the course of events. Aaron leaned back, a calm determination settling over him. Today, we survive. Tomorrow, the galaxy begins to understand what humans can do. And we will continue to push, to challenge, to show that being underestimated is our greatest strength. The void was silent, yet alive with tension. Humans and Elysians stared across the darkness at one another, one side small but unyielding, the other vast and intelligent yet challenged. The contest was not over. It had only evolved. And the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. For the first time, the Elysians understood, intelligence alone did not determine superiority. Humans had something else, something unpredictable, audacious, and brilliant. Something that could change the balance of the stars. And in that moment, Commander Aaron smiled, knowing humanity had not just survived, they had begun to redefine what it meant to be strong in the galaxy. The void of space was quiet, but tension thrummed through every system aboard both ships. The humans' small vessel floated like a shadow against the colossal Elysian ship. Commander Aaron's eyes scanned the stars, calm and calculating. This was the moment where ingenuity, courage, and audacity would define the outcome. Not weapons, not strength, but the human mind. Inside the Elysian command center, Captain Viral's violet eyes were fixed on the human vessel. "They have survived everything we've thrown at them," he murmured. "And yet, they do not strike. They are not reckless. They are teaching us something greater than survival." Tarek's voice trembled. "Captain, I don't understand. They are so small, fragile, and yet, how can they control us so completely?" Viral did not answer immediately. His gaze followed the humans' subtle maneuvers. "Because they understand the one thing many species forget," he said finally. "Control is not about strength. It is about perception, timing, and daring. Humans possess all three in abundance." Aboard the human ship, Aaron made his final move. "Initiate the final decoy sequence," he commanded. "Let them witness what humans can truly do." Mira pressed the last controls. Tiny drones launched in every direction, scattering energy pulses, light flares, and sensor jamming fields. The human ship slipped between these illusions, vanishing completely from the Elysians' projections, then reappearing in a position that seemed impossible. Viral's eyes widened as his sensors scrambled. Every calculation, every prediction had failed. The humans had created a situation where nothing could be trusted, yet nothing was random. Their every move was precise, deliberate, and daring. "They are extraordinary," he whispered. "Not in strength, but in mind. Not in weapons, but in will. They have turned the impossible into reality." Tarek shook his head. "Captain, what do we do? We cannot capture them. We cannot predict them. And we certainly cannot destroy them without risking our own systems." Viral's lips curved into a small, rare smile. "Then we watch. We learn. And we respect what we did not expect to encounter." On the human ship, Aaron allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had survived countless odds. Yet this encounter was different. They had not only survived, they had changed how a species of the galaxy's greatest minds would perceive them forever. The Elysians attempted a final maneuver, trying to force the humans into a corner. But Aaron anticipated it. With a subtle, elegant sequence, the human ship shifted, using the energy fields of nearby stellar debris to appear in multiple locations at once. The Elysian sensors were completely overwhelmed. "They think they are in control," Aaron whispered to Mira. "But humans have been leading the dance all along. And today, the galaxy learned something new." Viral's projection flickered as he realized the truth. Humans were not merely survivors. They were challengers of thought, masters of unpredictability, and capable of outsmarting even the most intelligent species in the galaxy. "They are remarkable," he said, almost to himself. "The galaxy has underestimated them for centuries. That mistake will never happen again." On the human ship, the crew watched silently. They did not celebrate. Humans did not rely on force or violence. They relied on courage, ingenuity, and the ability to turn every disadvantage into an opportunity. Today, they had shown the galaxy the essence of humanity. Viral finally spoke to his crew. "Prepare a report. Not of their technology, not of their size, not of their ships, but of their minds. The humans are a species to be studied, respected, and never underestimated again. This encounter will change everything." Aaron's eyes scanned the stars. He knew the Elysians would tell the story, but it did not matter. Humans had already proven the truth. Strength alone did not define supremacy. Will, ingenuity, and courage could challenge the greatest minds in the galaxy, and win. As the human ship disappeared into the star-strewn darkness, the Elysians watched in silence. The galaxy's greatest minds had been deceived, not by power, but by audacity. Humanity had survived, outsmarted, and inspired awe. And in that moment, a quiet truth settled across the stars. The galaxy would never again look at humans the same way. Small, fragile, underestimated. They were now a force of ingenuity, courage, and daring that even the greatest minds could not ignore. Commander Aaron smiled faintly. Humanity had survived the impossible. And this was only the beginning.